I had gotten a lot of people that they wanted me to speak about this because number one, this particular book I had actually praised. It was one of the few books in recent memory when I was covering a lot of the modern comic book stuff, which I'm completely done with now, and I don't feel I'm not gonna do that anymore. At least as we get my comic book company off the ground, I really don't have any desire to sit up here and do anything other than just make fun of these people, not just actually try to put money in their pockets in that regards. I don't have a pull list or anything. But looking at this Thor comic, as one of the books that I had said was fairly decent, one of the few decent books that had been put out there. And apparently there's another retcon with the Mjolnir, and I think that context matters. Donny Cates is he's changed a lot. Now he has pink hair and all social justice and shit. But I don't think this was done by some accident. So what may have years ago you would have looked at it and you would have said, yeah, this is something along the lines of it's maybe stupid. I may not like the idea, but I'm not gonna be that bent out of shape of it. Well, now that will require you to completely ignore the reality of what's going on, right? And now we're beyond that. Looking at this right here, you gotta just acknowledge this. So basically, what's happened is the Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, has been retconned, and let's read from who wrote John wrote this. John F. Trent, my man's from this. He kind of summarized some of this. He says in the issue when the Mjolnir was debuted. It was written by Stan Lee, of course. It says Dr. Donald Blake is transformed into Thor after he discovers an ancient cane. He discovered the cane after fleeing a cave. This discovery of the arrival of the number of the alien rock creatures. The cane transforms into Mjolnir, and then he transforms back into Thor. We've covered the history of Thor. And what that meant and why he was Donald Blake and all of that and the history behind that. The encryption of the hammer, of course, whosoever wields this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. And annual number 11. Mjolnir is commissioned by Odin as one of the three treasures to be finer than Odin's spear. One of the dwarves tells Odin, says, "Now by your leave, a gift unlike any in the realm, the hammer Mjolnir, forged of mystic Urim metal. It is a unique weapon of matchless strength, my lord, and invulnerable to destruction." Odin then adds his own enchantments, saying to Mjolnir's natural properties, "I shall add my own divine enchantment, henceforth no one shall be able to wield this hammer lest he be worthy, and ever shall this mallet return to the hands of him who hurls it, and ever shall the thunderous storm, the very elements of high respond to Mjolnir's summons." And you can see some of that, of course, the creation of the Mjolnir and all of that. Now, this origin was slightly altered. Again, this is what happens in comic books. In 2004, the book stated that Odin sought out the great dwarf craftsman to make the hammer Mjolnir, and then he used the heart of the sun. This is where that idea came from, to forge a mold with which he birthed Mjolnir, the greatest weapon of all time, basically. And then this is my favorite right here, because this is when Jane Foster picks this up. I can recognize his artwork and Jason Aaron, his work anywhere. It's not his artwork, but I just remember this story so vividly. And this is the Thor upon which he picks the shit up. She picks the shit up. And then we got Lady Thor, who, of course, is Jane Foster. But apparently, this came with its set of retcons as well. And Jason Aaron, who is one of the worst modern writers, he's the worst things to ever happen to Thor. And whatever reason, Marvel gave this guy a lot of power to continue to change up Thor. And Aaron, he altered Mjolnir's history, and of course, Mighty Thor number 12. And he goes through this as many different tales have been told about how the hammer of yours first came to be, and blah blah blah. But we have ourselves another retcon, and this is the funniest one, I would argue here. And that is this one. Now, in Donny Cates' most recent issue of Thor, number 20, it is revealed that the Storm is still alive from the most recent retcon. And now the Storm is calling itself the god of hammers, as well as Mjolnir. It also has taken the shape of a whamen. So now the so stupid. The Mjolnir is basically has a mind of its own, and it has the shape of this electric whamen right here. Now, what I will say is this, is a lot of what is done, and this is before I finish, is John says here, not only does it take the shape of a woman, but it's also going across the stars, destroying everything in its past. Jotunheim and so forth, and all these different towns. So with Jason Aaron's sort of retcon of the Mjolnir led to what we have now, and now the Mjolnir has a mind of its own, and now it's a women figure thing that is, again, thinks for itself. I'm not the most fond of this, and it's not just because she's a woman, or like it's not like, oh well, it's because the Mjolnir's a woman, and that's the angle that a lot of people are going to take, and rightfully so. This is the time that we live in. That something like that happens, of course, is done purposefully. And Jason Aaron and Donny Cates, they're the type of guys to try to take it to their adversaries and let's say give them something to talk about. However, it's just the complete changing and the reimagination that has happened in comic books as of recent. For Marvel, I don't think a lot of people know, because with DC, because they kind of have rebooted their whole entire universes and they streamlined a lot of things, it's more easier to point to them and see like the vast changes that have happened, for example, from 2011 to now with DC, because you had like the New 52, and then you had a rebirth and all of that, and then all the crises, I guess, that have happened, Final Crisis, and all these kind of world destroying elements, or merging elements, or universe merging elements, and all of that. And so you get these big changes to some of these characters in terms of their history. And oftentimes, like what New 52 was, done the kind of modernized shit, and it's dead on arrival. New 52 is the worst era of DC Comics fucking ever. But a lot of people don't know, like, definitely in the last 10 years or so, Marvel has had also its share of retcons to individual characters. And a lot of that seemed to kind of go, and this is my honest opinion on it, kind of go with the growth of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it seemed like they were almost doing things with that in mind of doing things to justify maybe some of the actions that they're going to do in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or it was one of those things where the writers themselves were trying to do things that they wanted to see in the future depicted. And this is why I think you have, for example, so much of this next phase going into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, despite having so much history of historical arcs that have never been told yet. They're going through the like a lot of what they're doing and the ideas and the things that they're depicting is stuff that just happened. Riri Williams is getting her own, I think, series. Riri Williams was created not that long ago. Miss Marvel, or Kamala Khan, this version of Miss Marvel, is a relatively new character. She's getting her own series. Thor, and this tokenization with Jane Foster becoming Thor is a relatively, you had that like what if, But like to truly canonize what happened, that was a recent phenomenon. That was like 2014. It was not that long ago that this happened. But all of these newer aspects of things that had just happened in the comic books have skipped the line and unfortunately are happening. And these people these depictions are going to happen. So wouldn't be surprised at all if the Lady Mjolnir, or whatever you want to call it, ends up becoming a thing that gets adopted in the Marvel Cinematic Universe going into the future. This is my prediction. This is a little aside the point. I think all of those things are dead on arrival for sure. They're already doing a bunch of reshoots for. They've done some with Doctor Strange. They're doing some with Miss Marvel reshoots. I do think all of those, of course, are dead. Nobody's going to be very interested in that. They're never going to. They just can't get right. They're unfortunately all in on things that have nothing to do with like honoring source material or depicting classic art because the stories have already been fucking wrote for them. But I think what's going to happen is they're going to use like this whole multiversal element as really it's just going to be the constant nostalgia bait. Much like what we got with Spider-Man. That's going to be what they depend on, I think, to justify continuation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and to have something in the back pocket that's going to get them some money. And again, America Chavez, another very recently created character, appearing in Multiverse in the Madness with Doctor Strange. But that whole multiversal element and aspect is something that is going to be utilized to nostalgia bait people and to keep them interested in it. So don't be surprised at the multiversal element. I had predicted this long ago. That was going to be their kind of segue into the Fantastic Four as well as the X-Men. But also even with bringing back other characters and justifying their existence because of what they can do with that. This is what multiverses allow you to do. This is why they're the worst thing that ever happened to comics, is that nothing is high stakes. So if they want to bring back a version of Tony Stark, they could rely on the multiverse. If that's something that they want to do, if they want to justify the existence of characters that have gone away, that they have been that were dependable, maybe it's Captain America or something like that, they can use these other aspects in order to do that. And that's exactly what they're going to do, because there's no way that these stories and these goofy things that they're doing with these books are going to be something that a lot of folks are going to be interested in. I think it'll get a lot of headlines. It'll get a lot of retweets. It'll get a lot of people interested in that regards, but it's not going to be anything that like people actually are stoked on. So dead on arrival. That's my ruling.
You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.